Here's Laura Ingraham and Ben Shapiro to tell us that the problem of corruption would go away if we just told everybody that nobody should expect anything from society ever.
Members of Generation E believe he or she should get into the best colleges, even if he or she does not have the best grades or the best scores. And they develop, by the way, this warped view of their own self-importance because mommy and daddy raised them to believe that they were special. What's the end result here?
What makes you think this is a generational thing? Since when have rich folks not been using money to grease the wheels for themselves and their kids? And it's not just mommy and daddy who tell them they're special. It's also the judicial system that will let rich kid criminals off the hook because of their affluenza. And it's not just kids. Why do you think Trump's labor secretary went easy on Epstein?
Well, many of these young people, and it's not just the wealthy kids.
Oh, are the poor kids' parents paying tens of thousands of dollars to bribe them into colleges too? Laura clearly wants to bury the lead of rich parents having too much power and influence. She doesn't want this to be a rich people problem, and neither does Ben Shapiro. They'd prefer you forget about that. They want to conflate the issue of rich people bribing schools with programs like affirmative action aimed at correcting unfair disadvantages. They see the folks who want disadvantages corrected as being every bit as entitled and narcissistic as rich folks thinking their children's failures, despite having every advantage, ought not keep them out of university. Disadvantaged folks want deference in college admissions because it is obviously harder to get good grades when your parents can't afford to provide you with proper nutrition or house you in a place that isn't contaminated with lead. Rich folks want deference, well, just because. Even if you are opposed to affirmative action, it must be clear to you that these are not morally comparable expectations. But Laura and Ben would very much like to convince you that they are.
Grow up to be demanding, entitled adults. Oh, my next guest has become a sensation touring colleges across the country and offering the very message that I stressed in tonight's angle. Joining me now, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire and author of the brand new book, The Right Side of History, in stores tomorrow. All right, Ben.
It's always funny to point out that he chose this name for his book after he tweeted about how the phrase right side of history is morally idiotic.
I want to begin with what we were talking about earlier, and it dovetails into everything you write about in your book, the emerging politics of grievance and entitlement, Generation E.
Why is it the fault of the current generation that their parents are bribing them into school?
Your thoughts on how to best thwart this, combat this, cure this?
I mean, I think that the best way to combat a lot of this stuff is to focus on achievement and freedom and responsibility. The fact is that freedom comes along with the duty to achieve, and you're not owed anything in this world. Why should you perceive yourself to be owed a college slot? Why should your parents give you everything? You know, that sort of mentality is foreign to a lot of the bases for Western civilization.
As opposed to what civilization? Is there a civilization that says you should get to go to university no matter how bad your grades are? Perhaps Ben means that this idea that you're not owed anything is a basis for Western civilization. I wonder which of the foundational Western texts, whatever those are even supposed to be, ever said that. Was it Moses who said, "I got mine, f*** you," or was it maybe Plato?
And the basis for America, this idea that we were supposed to go forth and conquer, that we were supposed to forge into the wilderness, and we were supposed to build something out there. That sort of mentality, unfortunately, has been abandoned in favor of this grievance culture, as you suggest, that says that we're all owed something from the world, and if we don't get it, it's because the system has failed us.
Do you remember when America abandoned its love of conquering things? 'Cause I don't. And wouldn't it be terrible if Americans actually acknowledged that the whole point of living in a society is for people to benefit each other?
Well, and even the shirt that young woman was wearing, T-shirt, when she was confronting Chelsea Clinton, of all people, like Chelsea Clinton's. But isn't that kind of I'm so sick of the phrase "jump the shark" because that's jump the shark. But isn't that telling you a lot about just how pathetic this whole entitlement movement has gone when Chelsea Clinton is targeted?
Yeah, I mean, when Chelsea Clinton is too radical for you because she's too far on the right, I think that maybe you've not just jumped the shark, you've jumped the entire aquarium.
That assertion only makes sense if you think center-right politicians like the Clintons are as far to the left that the Overton window could conceivably go. How much of a bubble do you have to be so politically myopic? Everything on this girl's shirt was suggested 75 years ago by Franklin Roosevelt. Was he part of Generation E? Was FDR an entitled millennial? To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.